I never thought Karen would dial 911 while I stood knee-deep in wet concrete. My name is George and I live in this quiet Ohio suburb with my wife Sarah and our 12-year-old son Tim. We moved here for the good schools and safe streets, but the HOA turned paradise into a prison. I built a simple wooden skate ramp in our backyard last summer just for Tim and his friends. It was tucked behind the tall fence and invisible from the streets, so nobody should have cared. Karen showed up at my door 2 weeks later, clutching a clipboard like it was a court order. She declared the ramp violated 6 different HOA rules on structures safety and neighborhood aesthetics. Her voice dripped fake concern while her eyes gleamed with pure power trip joy. I stayed calm and promised to take it down to keep the peace like any reasonable guy would. Tim looked heartbroken when I dismantled the ramp piece by piece that same weekend. The neighborhood kids stopped coming over and the backyard felt empty and quiet again. That silence lit a fire in me, so I started planning something way bigger and way better. I decided on a pro-grade concrete skate bowl deep enough for real tricks and smooth transitions. Building it openly was impossible because Karen monitored every backyard like a hawk on steroids. So I hatched a secret plan and ordered materials in small batches delivered when she was at work. I dug the bowl at night under cover of darkness, wearing black clothes like some concrete ninja. The dirt smelled fresh and damp while my shovel scraped rhythmically under the backyard floodlights. Sarah thought I was crazy, but she helped haul bags of cement when the coast stayed clear. Weeks passed and the bowl took shape hidden behind new privacy trees I planted strategically. I poured the concrete in sections during Karen's annual 2-week cruise to the Bahamas. The wet mix felt cold and heavy on my boots as I smoothed every curve with loving care. I finished the coping edges just before dawn and covered the whole thing with a giant tarp. For a moment the backyard looked normal again and I allowed myself a small satisfied grin. Then Karen returned tanned and meaner than ever and the rumors started flying through the neighborhood. She told everyone I was digging an illegal pool that would crash property values into the ground. She left passive-aggressive notes on my mailbox about noise ordinances and visual pollution. One afternoon she even knocked again, demanding to inspect my yard for compliance. I smiled politely and told her the backyard was private property and she could pound sand. Her face turned beet red, but she spun on her heel and stormed off muttering threats. That night I heard her voice carrying over the fence while she gossiped on the phone. She claimed I was endangering children and turning the suburb into a skate park ghetto. The tension built slowly like pressure in a pipe ready to burst at any second. I started recording every interaction on my phone because I sensed things were about to explode. One humid Saturday morning I was out there fine-tuning the bowl when her voice shattered the quiet. She screamed over the fence that she had called the police and they were already en route. I stood there, frozen trowel in hand with fresh concrete still glistening in the morning sun. 2 squad cars pulled into my driveway, lights flashing but no sirens, thank God. The officers looked annoyed as Karen marched up, gesturing wildly at my hidden backyard project. She accused me of unpermitted construction and claimed the bowl created a public safety hazard. I stayed calm and explained it was all on my private property and fully within city code. One cop shrugged and said they could not do much without a clear violation or warrant. Karen's eyes narrowed and she insisted they arrest me right then for contempt of HOA. The second officer actually chuckled under his breath before telling her to calm down. That moment felt like sweet vindication, but I knew Karen would not let it end there. She started calling the HOA board every day, demanding an emergency meeting about my secret bowl. I spent the next week quietly gathering every email, every note, and every recorded conversation. My lawyer friend reviewed the bylaws and found Karen had overstepped her authority multiple times. She had trespassed twice by stepping onto my lawn without permission during her spying missions. Plus, she had falsified a complaint form claiming structural damage that never existed. The board meeting happened on a rainy Thursday night in the community center gym. I walked in carrying a folder thick with timestamps, photos, and audio clips ready for war. Karen sat at the head table smirking like she already owned the outcome. She opened by calling my skate bowl an eyesore that lowered everyone's home values dramatically. I waited my turn, then played the first recording of her screaming threats over the fence. The board members shifted uncomfortably as her shrill voice filled the silent room. I followed with photos of her shoes clearly on my grass during the illegal inspections. The president of the board cleared his throat and asked Karen for an explanation. She sputtered and turned bright red, trying to claim she was just protecting the community. I stood up calmly and quoted the exact HOA rule she had violated by entering my property. The room went dead quiet while the other board members exchanged uneasy glances. One member actually whispered that Karen had been abusing her position for years now. The vote came fast and unanimous, with Karen removed as president effective immediately. She sat there, stunned, mouth open, while the gavel banged like a judge's final word. I walked out into the cool night air feeling lighter than I had in months. The skate bowl stayed exactly where it belonged, and Tim started shredding it the next day. Neighborhood kids returned quietly at first, then boldly with boards and helmets in hand. Karen sold her house 6 months later and moved somewhere with no HOA restrictions at all. Now the suburb feels peaceful again, except for the satisfying sound of wheels on smooth concrete. Turns out the biggest eyesore was never my ramp, it was her tiny kingdom of control all along.